Hey gamers. It's youth group counselor Goblin here to talk with you about emotions you may be feeling around this time in your life. I know many of you are having strong emotional reactions to the Wheel of Time show, and I'm here to let you know that's normal. It's a part of just growing up. No one's gonna judge you or be mad. Dab. What I would like to talk about is how we're treating each other. Let's get one thing straight. We're all friends under this roof. Swag. Whether you like or dislike the show, I'm gonna say you're welcome here. You can comment, like, or dislike, no problem. All I'm gonna ask is you address each other with respect, because you know, we're good adults here, and under the light, we can accomplish great things. Swag. And if you see anyone being a big old meanie in the comment section, all I want you to do is reply by finding their address and slaughtering their family. That's how we'll resolve these issues. Bloodshed. May the light be with you. Now, if you have any feelings and you want to discuss this further, I'm available on Steam. Just add me. Swags. Let's go ahead and get into the video, gamers.
The Wheel of Time, episode 4. As we've been doing here on the channel, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the 4th episode of The Wheel of Time and going full spoilers. Just for the show, we're not going to be going into theories for later book stuff for those who have read them. I might bring up some small differences for stuff that's directly happening on the screen, but in terms of the wider talk, those videos are to come later. And if you've watched episode 4, you can go ahead and rest easy as we begin this deep dive. I'm trying to learn to smolder like Yosha. It'll be... I'm not doing it. But let's go ahead and pick up with the first plotline I wanted to talk about here. And that's gonna be the one I have the least to say about, but man, was it still really good. Matt and Rand, the chemistry between them and Tom is absolutely just winning me over for this show. And it's something that even when I'm criticizing, I can still kind of have this nice cushion of like, these three are solid. There's gonna be a lot of criticism to come, but I really love what's happening here because we get a continuation of a lot of the worry and anxiety around what's happening with Matt, and it's escalated quite substantially, and in a way that I'm not sure, in an odd way, how much it's staying true to the book, but we shall see, because there's a physical manifestation that wasn't necessarily in the book. But okay, let's slow down. Take your time, Daniel. Tom, Matt, and Rand, though, want to sneak into a family's barn and sleep in it, but they are caught in the endeavor. And there's a really heartfelt characterization of Rand here, where he notices the guy who's threatening them once they're caught is using a full fist instead of his fingertips. If you want to actually get a quick shot off, it's important to do that. That's not what you do with a bow and arrow. And so he goes, look, man, if you really wanted to kill us, you wouldn't be doing that. And if I wanted to live, I wouldn't have told you I recognized that. So please, just let us. We'll stop. We're sorry. We're so sorry. And in a genuine, like, oh, it got a out of me, we see that actually behind them as well were a child and wife also aiming bows at them. So, man, they really could have been boned if they handled that wrong. After realizing that our party is full of nice people, though, they let them enter the barn and go to sleep. And there's some really important key moments for development foreshadowing for our characters. Rand sits down with Tom, and what Tom essentially says is there's a lot of warning signs from Matt that he might be a male channeler. He seems to be going a bit... And that's concerning me because in a performance of absolutely bringing something to the book to life here, we learned that Tom was related to a male channeler, and he got captured by some Red Sisters and gentled. After that, he was so depressed that after some time, he killed himself, and that's a pretty accurate representation of what happened in the book, delivered in a different way. It's effective, though, and the emotion behind the delivery of it, I wish had been a little more raw, but with Tom's maturity and how long it's been since this happened, I'm not entirely sure. I get why we didn't get a super over-the-top amount of emotion. Maybe that would have been too much, but I found myself wanting a little more. But the main takeaway is they will be trying to keep women who can channel away from Matt, and that is firmly being implanted in Rand's head. If you're a man who could channel, stay away from women, so let's keep Matt away. I'm guessing setting up conflict for later in the season. And then we get a final scene with Matt here, where Matt is getting some sick, and then something comes out and goes back, and I went, why is this show no more mouth stuff, please. The bat in episode 2 and now this, I don't like things that I don't want in my mouth going in my mouth. I'm a huge germaphobe, so that's just blah. And Barney Harris is doing such a good job of still showing us that he is the funny Matt we've gotten to go, but there is this massive Gollum, let's just call it his Gollum Smeagol overlay going on here that Robert Jordan is obviously pulling inspiration from for what he did for Matt with the character. And there's even this sweet scene with this little girl where he comes across creepy at first, but then that charm kind of wins you over as he talks about his sisters to this little girl, and it's so nice. And there's a doll moment and bread. Oh, I hope everyone here stays happy and healthy and nothing awful happens to them.
And that doll was a Brigitte doll, so...
And finally, we have Rand do one more really nice, sweet gesture to Matt before they go to sleep, where he says, look, I'm here for you. And I have a lot of criticisms to come for this episode, but having that like non-toxic moment of Rand just trying to extend a branch and be like, dude, I'm your friend. We grew up together. No matter what you are dealing with, I love you and I'm here for you. It just... That's how you make the Two Rivers bond special, and the Two Rivers bond should be special. But Rand enters the dream world, and there's so much I can say in a predictions video after season 1 is done that I'm going to get into. We can talk about this scene a lot, but we also get a great, very firm example for new viewers of the show of how the dream world can reflect reality.
Hold up. Something I did not realize until I was editing this episode. Perrin's hitting a tinker with a hammer.
Because we see Matt walking with bloody hands, Rand bolts awake, clearly having had a nightmare, Tom above him like, dude, what? Which, I'm always curious when that, like, cliche is in a show or a movie, like, was the person about to wake them up, waking them up, is that what brought them out? I'm not sure. They immediately realize Matt's gone, and then we see Matt in the same pose Rand was dreaming him in, with blood on his hands, inside the farmhouse, and the family's dead.
Did I do that?
And there's a moment of, did Matt do that? I don't know. Little girl's dead outside too, so did Matt. But he then points up at the roof and he goes, I see you. And capturing the horror vibes once again from the Wheel of Time, a fade emerged from the shadow. And the delivery, the editing, the execution of that beat, awesome. The conflict with Tom, where he does something reflected from the books again, sacrificing himself so Matt and Rand can get away. We're kind of left unsure if he's dead or not, was good, except the Fade's glove was so clean. And I saw that and I was like, that's weird. It was too clean for I didn't like that for some reason.
And I might be walking the line a little bit too close for book spoilers here, but a neat lore thing is we always know there's some strange connection between the evil from the dagger and the evil of the shadow. And so the fact that Matt's able to point and see a Fade hiding in the shadows was really interesting to me, because it's kind of a further exploration of that thing that we get glimpses of in the books.
But Matt and Rand run outside, Matt sees the little girl, and there's a look of horror on his face, and again, I'm like, yes, the Fade killed them. Please. End of their plot line. So now let's go ahead and kick on over to Egwene and Perrin, because they are continuing to explore their time with the Tinkers. And I should have spent more time on these two in my last review. I just figured they would be the bulk of the focus for this episode, and I figured this review would be largely focused on them. Error in my judgment, though I really do enjoy the little bits of importance we're given here, because one, the performances of the characters are sensational. I was actually just texting my dad, and he was like, no, Marcus Rutherford as Perrin is my favorite so far. And I don't disagree, because he is so Perrin, and we get that in a beautiful scene where the philosophy of the Way of the Leaf is exposited to him, and instead of being really inquisitive or overly emotional, we just get that super Perrin internalization listening. That's Perrin. He is the guy who's going to just sit there and observe, and that's what Marcus does.
And as emotional as that scene was, it couldn't help but realize how much the Tinkers are cultists in the Wheel of Time. Like, they propose an extreme worldview and philosophy that they are actively trying to convert others to, that is very unrealistically to actually live with in this world, and yet they're just treated like they're not a religious cult because of the lore around them and the fact that they're super peaceful. But like, they're half a turn away from Jim Jones.
As annoyingly charismatic as he should be, Aram flirting with Egwene, and that optimism from Egwene is finally being allowed to show through. That's who she is as a character. She is someone who, even in, the darkest moments, as long as she's not actively being hunted by murderers, she can find the beauty, the good, and Madeline has that just innocence nailed. And I'm not sure if I'm hoping they play up or down Perrin's relationship throughout the whole series with the Tinkers here, based off what I'm seeing now. The next episode will probably be foundational to whether or not I want it, because I'm kind of just, I don't know, I'm not feeling the Tinkers themselves as much as I do in the books. But all right, let's go ahead and talk about the focus of this episode, the main bulk, and that's going to be Nynaeve, Lan, Moraine, and a camp full of Aes Sedai. And the show doesn't want any subtlety. You should hate Red Sisters. Flat out. They suck. There's not one likable moment from any of the Reds provided to us, really, at all. They're just awful.
Is your name Nanu?
Did you just start a conversation by mispronouncing my name?
I like your hair.
I wouldn't say they're cartoonish in any way in terms of their portrayal, but they just are so obviously sinister, and that I'm a bit bothered by. Though there are moments throughout this portrayal I do enjoy. Having Leandrin call blues spies who make themselves be more important than they are. Okay, that's them fighting words. All right, I guess I'm a yellow today. I was warm. And I love how Lan eventually blocks her, and then as he comes in, Nynaeve just kind of loudly enough that possibly this Aes Sedai heard is like, she's a snake. She's a snake. And Nynaeve's not an idiot. Obviously, she's going to recognize this. I would have had a really big problem with this exchange if Nynaeve came away from it not going, that's a snake. And we get some banter back and forth, some delivery of the history from Lan, and just some chemistry bonding, fling-flong romance between Nynaeve, a warder belonging to another woman.
And I do want to add, the actual delivery of those words, translations from Lan to Nynaeve, was maybe the most emotionally resonant scene the entire show has delivered so far.
And we also get Nynaeve, which I didn't expect bonding with like the camp as a whole, but specifically the warders, and that's really in line with her character. She wouldn't like bonding with the Aes Sedai. She'd go hang out with the warders and bond with them. Yep. We also get just confirmed like poly warders. Like, there's threesomes, boners, and penis everywhere. This show is full of sex, and I personally enjoy it. But the only genuine laugh out loud moment I had from this show was when Lan tried to start covering the fact that Nynaeve tracked him, and she just cut in and was like, tracked his ass. That actually really made me laugh, even though I'm kind of wondering, like, how would Nynaeve track Lan? He's like the best at not being found, but maybe she is good enough. But having him try to cover it and her be like, no, fuck you, I tracked you. That was funny. And Kieran's warder actually delivers a good bit of world building about the Aes Sedai and the bond for warders. And it's nice to see the show taking a breath to expand some of this. It's where the show is the strongest, actually. Honestly, when the show just takes a breath and lets us sit, that's continually what I'm thinking it's at its strongest. We get Aes Sedai plotting and meddling around Logain. A Red wants to just forget trial, still him here, while the ceremony of trial still needs to be done by the Amerlin seat. Setting up distrust and angles within the White Tower. They're not friends. Abort, they're not friends. And there was a lot of things that were just mildly bugging me throughout this plot line. The costuming being a bit too clean for my taste. It made sense with the White Cloaks because they're the people who would like psychotically clean themselves to make sure they look perfect. The Aes Sedai are out and traveling. They got done fighting Logain as people. I feel like there's just been a bit more gruff here, but it all felt a little too perfect. I can easily counter that in world by saying like they can channel. They'd keep themselves clean. They can do all kinds of stuff that would make them look great. But it's my logic brain versus my immersion brain. But something about the presentation of this camp and a lot of it just didn't fit for me. What I do really like though is how Logain's power is handled, because we are constantly having multiple Aes Sedai shielding him. We are having it be talked about like we don't know how strong he is. Like he's just sitting there casually and it's this hard to keep him back, letting us know you don't with Logain, and you don't. And his entrance at the beginning, that should have been the cold open for episode 1. I would take this cold open, put it back at episode 1, and that way it's been more time since we've last seen this guy, you kind of forget about him, and when he pulls up at the end of the last episode, it would have been like, oh snap. That's just a structure thing from me, because I still don't think we needed that cold open of the man being hunted and stilled by the Red Sisters in episode 1. Still not seeing why we needed that. And once an attack begins, we have Logain's army actually setting a trap, and this being an ambush. Logain has actually been taken prisoner just so he apparently can like sap the energy for the Aes Sedai constantly trying to shield him, and now that he really wants to, he just bursts from this shield. We see him just overwhelm in terms of strength the Aes Sedai around him. Combine that with the fact that outside we are seeing Aes Sedai struggle really hard to keep them away from Logain somewhere. And that's one of my, two big criticisms of this battle sequence. It should have either been in morning or at night and not just in the middle of the day, so it would have avoided that kind of more just like LARPing session feel. Even give us rain, like something along those lines would have really helped. And I didn't get a location reference. I don't know where the army is versus these Aes Sedai versus where Logain's being held. All I know is they were in the Aes Sedai camp, they ran away a little bit, and now they're somewhere. I didn't feel the tension because it never gave me a point A to B to C anything with. It was just battle happening. They're off. Best I can assume is cave Aes Sedai army, but I don't know that for sure. Moiraine comes and confronts Logain though and has a conversation with him and essentially confidently says like, I know you're not the dragon. The dragon will be more powerful than you, and the voices you hear in your head are just insanity.
And I do really say I like the concept of having the channeling madness physically manifested for Logain. It makes me curious to see what they're going to do with channeling sickness for a certain character later on. And also the way she delivers this and kind of tears him down just felt so Moiraine, and specifically this version of Moiraine, because there are slight differences here.
But after Moiraine talks to them for a bit, there is lashing out with the power, Logain responds, and Kiernan dies. Her warder outside feels it, and again, the emotion here is just not hitting for me. There was a connection and a relationship set up between these two, which was successful and well acted. I just wasn't given long enough to sit with it. We then see Lan grab Nynaeve and a few other Aes Sedai and run back to the cave where Logain is, and the warder whose Aes Sedai died jumps at Logain, accidentally providing him a weapon to use, and he pumps the power into it, shattering his axes and sending shards flying, and people are wounded except for Nynaeve. We have Lan bleeding out, Moiraine bleeding out, everyone bleeding out, and Nynaeve gets down and has a anger moment, I assume, which allows her to channel, and then she heals everyone in the room. Now, I need to say what I'm going to say with this scene very carefully, because there is specific criticisms I have, and I do not want them to be misinterpreted. It is well established within the books that with channeling, you can do stuff without realizing it in bursts of emotion subconsciously, and it's often some of the most crazy stuff. We see weaves rediscovered because people move instinctually, so I have no issue with Nynaeve having this radiation of power coming out of her and healing everyone. In fact, I think it's a fine concept to show us Nynaeve can channel if you're going to do it this way. You just have to shoot and edit that scene very, very well, and I would like it to be focused on one personal relationship rather than a just whole room of people who get shotgunned, because then I can't emotionally connect with really anything. And the person who should obviously have been Lan is the one it tries to then focus on. Nynaeve puts her hands on him, but again, it's because it's too much and too many. I don't feel the emotion there. Yes, the relationship and chemistry between these two is effective, but just the way this is edited is not sinking me into these actors' performances. And something I'm just not sure about what they mean by, Logain then apparently gets a very solid read of Nynaeve's power, and through the relationship between men and women who can channel in the books, this should not be possible unless he's not seeing what she's doing, which he shouldn't, and he's only seeing the end result, which is everyone healing. But then his performance is kind of odd because he looks like he's in awe of this beacon of light, but he should not be seeing that. So they're changing the rules of channeling. Also, then all the sisters who are healed get up and combine their powers to then gentle Logain. And again, shot and edited in a way where I was just, nope. It's fine. It actually works with the politics being set up. It's a red taking advantage of adrenaline and people not thinking of a situation to get their end goal accomplished. Perfect. But having a bunch of people do, nope, that's not needed at all. And Logain not doing more to resist or fight, and he kind of just gives up before he is gentled, which the visual effect on gentling actually really cool. The idea of it being like ripped from their chest, I'm all about that, especially because Robert Jordan wrote gentling to be actually a reference to when men were let's not talk about that. And so we're at a point where the writing for this is mostly fine. I would just tweak a lot in terms of just specific actual power details, but the way it's shot and presented just absolutely did not work. I needed to be placed better. The structure of it needed to be different. The emotional setup was not resonating with me. And I feel bad because I know these actors handled this material as best they could. Like Zoe Robbins, I was worried she'd go like over the top emotion, but instead we get more of like an outburst of anger, which good, that's Nynaeve. And then that simmering calm of her kind of coming back in control. That's all performance stuff where I'm like, that's the best you could do with that. And Nynaeve in the books, as I guess we should say is established here, has a block where she can't channel unless she's mad. Here we get mad, but it wasn't so clearly conveyed. And I think that's, again, we needed just a couple more shots or beats of seeing anger build in Nynaeve rather than just like bang, 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 bang.
Okay, so here's my pitch on how to redo this scene and have a little bit more emotional resonance come through. First of all, you want to make it so that projectile, when it comes out, doesn't shotgun and just drag everyone down. That splits the viewer's focus too much. and you can't really process all these different characters dying. So instead, Logain isn't going to divert the energy he already is struggling with to actually shatter this, and instead he's just going to launch it back as a desperate projectile. This is going to go faster than any arrow, just something that careens at the Aes Sedai and is deflected off their wall. But it's deflected straight into Lan, who's distracted by Nynaeve as he's running into the scene. Now we have Lan down for a specific reason he could not avoid, no matter how skilled he was, a just random projectile coming at him at God knows how fast. That can take down even Lan. Nynaeve is immediately in shock, seeing someone she bonded so deeply with and is the one real friend she has out here, bleeding out as she's desperately trying to clamber her hands over the blood gushing from his throat. She's screaming for any of the Aes Sedai to help, but unfortunately, with Logain being as strong as he's been established to be, no one can break away, not even Moiraine, who Nynaeve is specifically screaming at, saying your warder is dying. But Moiraine knows if she pulls away from this fight, Logain's going to overwhelm them all and kill everyone here, so she can't let go. This infuriates Nynaeve, who is seeing Lan quickly bleed out under her hands. Of course, with the warder bond just having been explained to us, we know how anguishing this is for Moiraine as well. Finally, Nynaeve cracks, and that rage seeps through that we see have a similar result, and she does heal Lan. This causes a great commotion in the room, as apparently Logain can now sense women's power just off how the editing was shot in the show. I don't know how I feel about that change, but he will then be in awe of what he's seeing in the back, keeping that change for the show, however reason it's making it. This will allow the distraction of everyone to link and take him down, and make it not something that's quite so grandiose, but happens more subtly. Same thing is accomplished, but it's a bit more within the realm of possibility of random happenstance with the tower and someone just freaking out and healing one person, and it allows a lot more focusing on these two, their relationship, and the shock of Lan possibly dying, something that feels more believable than all these characters dying at once. No viewer is going to believe that. So that's how I'd rewrite it. Two final things as I wrap up in the middle of the night to get this video to you on time on Thanksgiving. I also just wanted to point out how I really like they kept the one person with the bond drinking affecting the other. That's one of my favorite dynamics of the entire series between Warder and Aes Sedai. And I just again want to emphasize the old tongue scene as being effective. Oh, and the bit of lore about the wheel not wanting, it just being reality. That's all stuff straight from the books that is, yes, and it's not even clunkily delivered. And then I'm also going to say I'm going to give this episode also a 7 out of 10, which seems to be, I'm a little harsher than most of the people on my recent poll, which is really surprising to me. So, there you go.